Method. Airwaves. Method. Doug Brown. Method. Airwaves. Doug You are now listening to Method Airwaves with Doug Brown.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Method Airwaves. This is your host, Doug Brown. This is episode number 20. That's right. 20 episodes, which I thought was appropriate to do the 20 years podcast here. What does this 20 years represent? Well, believe it or not, it has been 20 years that I have been a professional skateboarder. That title sometimes, even to this day, is like pro skater. It's like superhero, or it's something still a little bit foreign to me, but it's what I've done for a living. It's my primary income. It's how I put a roof over my head and food in my belly and gas in my car and how I've paid my bills. That is a fact. So many different events, sponsors. It's been this crazy whirlwind of activities, and it fell in my lap. I mean, I gotta be honest. It happened as a fluke when I was discovered, 2002 Gravity Games in Cleveland, Ohio. I talk a lot about this in my skateboard podcast and how I did get discovered. And I never, ever anticipated I would land in this position. But here I am. It's pretty surreal. I thought it would last a year or two at tops. I've said this many times because when it first happened, it's like, okay, I'm getting a paycheck. I got a sponsor. My first pro models put out in skate shops nationally with Yokohama skateboards. They put my bunny board out, which they've recently reissued. But when that happened, sent out to San Diego, and I got some other sponsors. Again, I'm making a long story short, but it became my living. Up until that time, I was teaching guitar full-time at a music studio in my hometown of Worcester, Ohio, Larry's Music Center. I graduated high school in 1992, and I jumped out of high school skateboarding all the time. Had no plans to go to college. Probably should have. Looking back, however, the guitar teaching job was just awesome. I thought I would do that forever. That landed in my lap, and what an experience that was. But I kept skateboarding through the 90s. I was doing competitions, and I did it because I love to skate. I started in 1986, and I never stopped. Ever. Now, what made me do this podcast this evening was I just got home. My dad had just returned from Florida a few days ago, and he heard about this Tony Hawk HBO documentary, which I was fully aware of, and I saw it on the opening day, of course. I was really looking forward to this. But I told my dad, you got to see it. You got to watch it. So he comes home, and I just got back from watching this 2-hour documentary with my father about Tony Hawk, which was an interesting experience. My dad really never knew a lot about skateboarding or skateboard culture. And honestly, how do I put this? It's not like my family has followed my career at all. Not to diminish anything that they might bring to the table of being proud or anything of that sort. It's just, it wasn't in the cards. My whole entire career, My older brother has never been to one event, not one. And I've done a lot of big ones. And other family members. I have an aunt, my grandpa's sister, so she's my great aunt, that's been a huge supporter. And my dad has been to one event, when I was in the Ohio History Museum a couple years ago. How lucky was I to be involved in the Champion of Sport exhibit. They put a board in there, but he went to that, which was a big deal. That meant a lot to me. But even further back, when I was in high school and skateboarding, it's not like he was in the backyard being, no, I don't know, a coach. He wasn't ever watching me skate. Not to say he wasn't really supportive, because there were times he was definitely there. After my mother had passed away in 1990, I had opened up a skate shop. I was 16 years old, got my vendor's license. And my father, I got a small loan from him to get it started. That helped. And even when I had a mini ramp in my backyard, I did the whole thing on my own with my crew, but he brought us Taco Bell. We finished that 3 in the morning, started it about 9 in the morning. So it was a big, big project. So I wouldn't say he disapproved of my skateboarding, but to be a bit cliche here, he was kind of like, especially in my early 20s, hey, what's this little punk rock side thing Doug's doing? Is that going to go anywhere? Got to understand, my father was an accomplished, gynecologist in the community. He's a baby doctor, and everybody loved my father, Charlie Brown. And he had reached so many people. And my mother was a nurse and turned into a very successful realtor. And then my brother, after high school, he went to grad school and became a doctor. So I've got these, pretty heavy hitters in my family of accomplishments. The doctors, this and that. And then there was me, the rebel, the black sheep, if you will, of the family. But I was teaching guitar and skateboarding, and here this all fell in my lap. And I often question, I wonder what my dad does think about the whole thing. He doesn't say a lot. I know he has his proud moments when somebody comes up to him and, your son's Doug Brown, they'll see me in the paper or something, and that transaction will take place. But to the present, watching this documentary with my father, Tony Hawk, Until the Wheels Fall Off, is the name of this documentary. You gotta watch it. It is awesome. For a number of reasons. I've been educated on Mr. Tony Hawk for many years. I've had the opportunity to meet Tony many times, and I've had the experience of seeing him skate in person. So I was well educated on his timeline, his accomplishments, and everything. So to experience this documentary with my father, to see through his eyes what Tony went through, maybe could channel a little bit of what I've been through. Am I Tony Hawk? Lord, no. Am I a high-profile professional skateboarder like Tony Hawk? Am I a household name? Ha, no. And that's okay. I don't claim to be. I don't even plan on being that. However, I have to toot my horn just a little bit. I have some pride that I've lasted this long doing what I've done with my skateboarding. It's been enough years that I can be reflective. 20 years. That's a good chunk of my life. And thank goodness I've gone through this experience, because I've learned a lot. And yeah, I'll say it. I've been a mentor. I've been a role model for a lot of kids. Becoming a motivational speaker, an author, now of 7 books. Yeah. But all those things, hopefully, I'd like to think, and from the feedback I've gotten through emails, DMs in my Instagram or messages in my Facebook, that I have inspired some people and planted seeds of inspiration and hope. That is the paycheck. Now, yes, I had to hustle. I've had good times, bad times, lots of money, no money through this skateboarding career. But where did I get this drive and determination from? Skateboarding. No question. And that's something that Tony Hawk's documentary really illustrates. That skateboarders, if you're a skateboarder out there, I know you can relate to this. Because to a person who doesn't skateboard, there's certain things that are very foreign. One of them being like, wow, there's no team. What's the reward of this? You're not going to get a standing ovation on your graduation day for being a skateboarder. You're not going to have a letter on your varsity jacket with a skateboard on it. It's a team of one. Why are you doing it? It's really hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around the fact that skateboarding is an art form. It's something that comes from within. It's not about just tricks and basically going on about this. Skateboarding is what you make it. Now, this is my perspective. Why did I start skateboarding? Why do I skateboard? First and foremost, fun, enjoyment. It's pleasurable in the sense of accomplishment. Being your own team, setting your own goals. And that still drives me. And that's a big part of it. And learning tricks, even just when I first learned to ollie early on, 1986, 87, when I started skateboarding, something so simple. That was a big goal, just to go over a pop can or to ollie over a brick or to do a 360 rotation. I was just a young kid, but to me, I was on top of the world. Me doing a 360 rotation at 12 years old was like Tony Hawk doing his 900. That's how I felt as a kid. What I'm getting to is the skateboarder has a different mentality on how we approach things. And I know this from all my speed bumps and hurdles in life, that I've been able to take everything that I've learned through skateboarding, the way I'd face a challenge. Anytime, like, I can't do this, you can't do that. I don't think like that. Because of everything I've been through with skateboarding, it really is unique, especially compared to other sports. When we're out there learning a trick, no matter what it is, and you fall, you might get hurt, but you get back up. You don't have 8,000 people saying, you got this, man, do it again. You're not like a football game. A guy fumbles and they're like, oh man, or if you get the touchdown, you're the hometown hero. With skateboarding, we never got that. We had our friends, our peers, the other skaters, which was awesome. We had that camaraderie. I think skateboarding in the 80s, it's still very, very, very similar. But back then, it was such a subculture. Now, it's everywhere. It's more acceptable. And hey, that's great. More resources, more skate parks, more skate shops. That's great. But back then, it was so much smaller. I mean, there'd be like maybe 10 or 15 guys locally that I could skate with. But, coming back around here, we didn't have a huge support system. We had ourselves. We didn't have a lot of skate parks. We might have had like The streets, of course. Skated a ton of street. I'm known for skating ramps now, but people are like, oh, do you skate street? Well, I grew up on the streets of Worcester, Ohio. The College of Worcester was my skate park. That was a fun time when the golf carts would chase us around, the security. Going back to Tony's new documentary, watching this with my father, they spent a lot of time in the documentary showing how much work it took Tony to get to that 900 spin that he pulls off at the X Games, which I watched live, which was amazing. I had my VCR ready to go. It was on ESPN. It was a big deal. When the X Games came into play at that time, skateboarding, for it to be on the TV like that and exposed to so many homes and people, that was before Tony Hawk's video games came out. So I'm watching this with my father, the 900, tonight. They showed that clip from the X Games, and he couldn't get past. Does he have a coach? He kept saying that. There's got to be a coach to tell him where to put his feet, and he was getting really frustrated, thinking that there has to be a solution, a process, and the way it should be. And somehow there should be skateboard coaches, and I'm like, Dad, it doesn't work that way. This is such an individual thing when it comes to tricks. Of course, we can get pointers from friends or maybe somebody else who has done a particular trick that can give you pointers, but it comes from one person, yourself. And skateboarding is based solely on that. It comes from within. It comes from your mind. I even do that to this day. If I have to picture myself doing a trick before I can actually do it. I have to visualize myself doing it. And then make that come to fruition, which can happen. That's the goal. That's how it starts. And I had to try to explain this to my father, and it was a bit of a struggle because his mentality is completely different. When you're not a skateboarder, you're wired a little bit differently. Not good or bad. And then towards the end of Tony's documentary, they start talking about Tony's injuries. And Stacy Peralta, who discovered Tony in his early youth. Stacy was a member of the Dogtown crew, and he was a professional skateboarder for the time. Him and Tony Alva, but Stacy in particular, he was the Tony Hawk of the day. He was on Charlie's Angels. He was getting flown around the world. He was a pro skater, getting paid, going here, going there. But he is a big force in the new Tony Hawk documentary. And he's like, towards the end, Stacy is saying, well, Tony needs to retire. He needs to stop, and he needs an intervention. And my dad's over there watching, they being like, yes, he's right. And then the next scene, they show Lance Mountain, who is awesome. I've met Lance several times. He was a member of the Bones Brigade. But Lance is saying, you know what? Maybe we're stupid, but we're going to skate until we die, Which Rodney Mullen, who finishes the documentary, my dad was very impressed with Rodney's intellectual approach to things, which I thought was neat, because, I think that too. We all love Rodney and his brain, and Rodney was saying, to coin the phrase that until the wheels fall off. Rodney said that. That's how that became part of the documentary name. But he's basically saying Tony and himself and a lot of skateboarders, including me, are going to skate until we just can't anymore. We will suffer injuries. We'll take the risk. Educated risk. I think that's the stage I'm at now. I'm soon to be 49 years old in a couple months. I wear a helmet every time I skate. I still push myself, but I know my limits. But you better believe there's somebody out there that says, wow, you're how old? Shouldn't you hang up the skateboard. You're too old for this. Times are changing. I remember when I was like 18 or 19 skating, and you'd hear of skateboarders that were like in their late 20s or even early 30s, and you'd think, whoa, that's old. Like, man. But fast forward, skateboarders are much older. They're still going. It's all in what you do on it. You don't have to do a lot. And just this week, this happens a lot. On Facebook, this guy's in his mid-30s, and he's messaging me, and he's saying, man, you're in big inspiration, and how do you keep going? I just started skateboarding. I feel like I'm overweight and all this stuff, but I really want to do it. And I told him, I said, you don't have to do the big rails. You don't have to try to do an invert on a vert ramp. You can just cruise, brother. You can just go down the driveway. You can pick a parking lot. You can go to your local skate park and find a little wedge ramp. You know, challenge yourself. Listen to your body and your mind. I know for a new skateboarder, or maybe somebody that used to skate that gets back into it and jumps on YouTube, and you see all these crazy videos, and it can be intimidating. I watch a lot of these videos. They're on my news feed on Instagram or whatever, and I think, what are they doing nowadays? It seems pretty limitless, which is great. It's inspiring, but I don't get depressed and think, well, I'll never do that trick. And yeah, there's plenty of tricks I know I'll never do. Like, I'm not going to do a 900 next week on a skateboard like Tony has. And that's okay. I'm happy with the tricks I can do. And at my age, like I was telling this individual, it's about fun. That's number one. Have a good time. Get some exercise. Get outside. Skateboarding has given me so much. Back to the reasons why I skate. It starts there. The enjoyment of it. No way at all when I first jumped on a skateboard. Me and my buddies, and it wasn't, oh, I gotta do this for a living. I want to be a professional skateboarder. That was never, ever in the cards. Not even being sponsored, getting stuff for free. It was like, whoa, let's have fun. Let's skate. You know, and find other competitions in different towns. And we would go to those competitions because they were fun and healthy competition. But more importantly, it was a chance to meet other skateboarders. That's what I was saying earlier about it being kind of a subculture back then compared to now. Back then, you would see a guy wearing Vans or something. He had a Santa Cruz t-shirt in the 80s. You'd go up, it was a brotherhood. You'd shake his hand, be like, dude, what kind of board do you ride? No, I got the new Kevin Staub board. Whereas today, I feel like it's a little bit more competitive. What tricks can you do? You know, just like bumping heads. They show up at a skate park, and instead of being like, what's up, bro? It's more of a, you want to play a game of skate? You see that a lot. That's something skaters do. The game of skate, which is a lot like the game of horse in basketball, where if you were to shoot a hoop, you'd get a letter. If you miss it, you don't. Well, there's a skate version of that, which is fine to some people. That's their skateboarding. It's always interesting, though, when I go to a really nice skate park and I show up and all these ramps and this and that, and I see like 10 guys in the corner playing these games of skate for like 3 hours and never touch one ramp at that skate park. Back in the day, we never played that game, really. We did have our competition, of course, with each other, healthy competition, and that's okay, but man, we skated everything. People say, do you skate street? Do you skate ramp? I skated all. I'm a skateboarder. Back to where I'm going. Why do I skate? Again, it was never about money. It was never about trying to be a professional skateboarder. I was introduced to skateboarding through the movie Back to the Future. I mean, that's showing my age, but at the very beginning of that movie. See Marty McFly going down Doc's driveway. And he's on the skateboard and he's holding the back of that car, waving, you know. I just knew it was something different and cool, and light bulb in my head went off, and I thought, well, I can kind of relate to that. I can see myself being a skateboarder. It felt right. I got my first skateboard. It was a Nash Night Stalker. A friend of mine, his older brother had it. I gave him, I believe, $30 for it. And up until that time, of course, I had the little yellow 70s banana boards we all had. But this was an actual big skateboard with the big wheels. They were about 10 inches wide and really heavy. Had the rails on the side, the nose guard, had the skid plate in the back. And a couple years ago, I ended up getting it on eBay. So I'm not the exact board. Well, it was a brand new Night Stalker from back then. So I acquired that. I do collect skateboards. Another fun thing about skateboarding, I mean, when someone asks me, why do you skate? Like I am now, I go all over the place. There's just so many reasons. It was never about just trying to make money from it. Speaking of my career, thinking about this for a second, I mean, the concept of being sponsored, originally I was attracted to, of course, getting free stuff. It wasn't about money. I mean, everybody loves free stuff. So I had some flow sponsors, which meant, you know, the UPS guy would show up and it was like Christmas. I was getting free product, which I gladly took, of course. My first paying sponsor, where I got an actual salary, was through -1 Grip Tape. And at the time, Christian Svitek, who was on Black Label, was writing for that company, and I got hooked up with them, and Mike V, was also on that team. So that opened up some doors, because I knew both of them. So I was on that team, and Mike V, should talk about him. He's been a big mentor and friend. He was somebody on the road when I would, you know, have questions or whatever. I'd contact him, and he'd give me advice. And I've met him many times. Had some really unique opportunities. I rode for Sobe Beverages, and Sobe at the time was huge. They had some pretty high-profile riders on that team. But that's when I first met Mike, was the Gravity Games at the Sobe booth. And then, who else? Andy McDonald was riding for them. Andy was a unique guy. Him and I are the exact same age. And I'd started riding for a ramp company that he rode for. So I got to do some demos with Andy, which, that was awesome. I mean, because I knew Andy at the time was doing doubles with Tony Hawk, and just the connection of that. Andy was really inspiring, because again, he was my age, and we vibed well, and had a similar style with some of our old school skating. The way he approaches skating is a lot like me. During those years, so much was going on. I was doing so much traveling. The first time I ever went out west was I went to San Diego for the ASR trade show. One of my sponsors sent me out there, and that opened up a lot of doors also. They used to do that show twice a year, and it was a place where it was a hub that everybody in the industry, all the companies would meet, and it was a trade show. They had a big ramp, and I got to skate that. And first time I went there was with Yokoher skateboards, and it was awesome because our booth was directly beside the Z-Boys booth. And if anybody knows anything about the history of skateboarding, the Z-Boys, the Zephyr skate team, that opened up the window for skateboarding and the industry, and guys like Jay Adams and Tony Alva. And I got to meet all those guys. It was so cool. Peggy Oki, the girl pro with the Z-Boys, she was the one running the booth. So I got to see her every day, even had lunch with her. And that was an eye-opener. doing all those trade shows during that time was pivotal in my career. And that's when I noticed I started to get out there more. Yokohama had put me in Trans World magazine. I had my first full-page magazine, which was a big deal to have that happen. And that's when I started to get recognized from that very first one. I mean, it was crazy because it was national. And let's see, going to the Eastern Supply Warehouse, one of their trade shows through Negative One Grip Tape, was a big deal the first time that I did that. Eastern Supply was the biggest wholesale place of the skateboard industry. It's where people were buying product for skate shops. And to go there, awesome. They had a huge ramp. And I got to skate that. So at all these events, I got to skate, not just sign stuff. And I got to meet Ray Underhill. I feel like mentioning him. He'd worked for Eastern Supplies, their marketing guy. And Ray was on the Bones Brigade. And he was somebody I really admired. And I was a big fan of his. I had his skateboard years ago. And to see what this guy has done with his life after he was pro was inspirational. Sadly, Ray had passed away. It's been about maybe 10 years now already. So rest in peace. He always skated everything skate for life. So he was an inspiration. And he had a little son at the time. And I got to skate with him on the ramp. And I'm signing autographs for Ray Underhill's son, a big poster. And Ray was sitting by the ramp watching me. And I'll never forget that. That was so surreal. Befriending a lot of these people like that really helped climb, I think, my ladder of where I was going with my skating. And it taught me the importance of community, and I knew that skateboarding just wasn't enough. You can be an amazing skateboarder, do all this stuff, but if you're a jerk and, you can't work with these companies, you show up drunk or stoned to death or whatever, you're not going to get far. So I stayed straight, I stayed clean, and I stayed focused, and I took my skating seriously because of what it was doing for me, and the ball was rolling. And I wanted it to keep rolling because all these opportunities were coming to me, and I got to experience a lot. It was awesome. Anyways. Now, back to watching this Tony documentary with my father this evening. Credits are rolling, it wraps up, and I think he was mainly taken by the fact that these skateboarders that they interviewed, how much intellect they had, and well-spoken they were, and it was neat for me because he had no idea who these guys were. He didn't know who Mike McGill was, or Steve Caballero, or even Rodney Mullen, and to hear them speak, I think it gave him a different insight that, skateboarders, we're deep. We're artists. We're creative. And hopefully that bled through him a little bit, that's how I am. That's who I am. I mean, no, I'm not a Tony Hawk, but I've had a lot of things that go parallel in my life with his, just on a different scale. I'm not a millionaire. I don't own a jet. But I've been so fortunate the past 20 years that I have traveled the globe because of that board and 4 wheels. And I've been out there visiting hospitals, detention centers, schools, libraries, preschools, nursing homes, you name it. And it's all because of my skateboard. That is awesome. That makes me feel really good. And to just that I'm still here doing it. I never thought it would last this long. But the drive, the determination, the tenacity that I've gained is because of skateboarding. Before I ever got sponsored or turned pro or any of that stuff, I had that drive in me. and skateboarders have that. So if you're a skateboarder, your goals can be anything. And I know you have an extra kick because you can face challenges. You can punch adversity through the wall and say, you know what? I learned to do a varial kickflip one time when I didn't think I could even ollie, and here I am. You can use that for whatever you're going through in life. You know, if you have a dream that you want to accomplish, it's that drive, that hunger. And I think that's how I've made it through this time. There's been lots of times where just, 5, 6 years into my career, I thought, wow, this is done. My has been. And, I lost a couple sponsors. The paychecks weren't coming in. And one door would shut, but I didn't give up. I kept persevering and another door would open. I created that. And that's from the hunger, the drive, some survival skills. I didn't want to be homeless. I didn't plan on it. In my life, I've always tried to use my skills to keep moving. And if it turned into something profitable, that's okay. If not, that's okay too, because they were things that I enjoyed. Like when I was a guitar teacher all those years ago, I was playing guitar because I liked it. It was simply something I enjoyed. I would be doing that activity whether I was getting paid or not. Exactly like skateboarding. Another life lesson that I've definitely had to deal with was opposition, or when people say, you can't do this, you can't do that. I always tell people, believe in yourself. Have some self-confidence, some courage to pursue whatever you want. Don't let anybody take away your dreams. There have been lots of times in these 20 years that I've had people that want to just shoot you down and bring you to the floor and just, you shouldn't do this, you suck, you're not worthy of anything, go away, you're this, you're that. You can't let those voices in your system. If you do, it'll eat you up. For me, honestly, I never really dealt with that because I had my wall. I knew what I was doing. I stayed focused. I wasn't going to let somebody take this away from me, especially not some random hater that doesn't even know me personally. They've got their opinions and they're entitled to that. The word haters. I very, 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 if ever, acknowledge a hater. Ever. Oh my goodness. But they exist. I noticed the more I did with my career, the further I got, the more I was out there. Yes, I got fans. I got people that were saying, hey, we like what you're doing. A kid is a fan. He wants my autograph, or he bought my skateboard, whatever. But when that started to grow, you get the people that crawl in there on their little aliases or whatever online, and they just, you suck, blah, 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 blah. So, when you're pursuing that dream and you find those blockheads that want to bring you down, you gotta just not pay attention to it. It's not worth it. Don't let anybody take away your vision. Stay focused. I mean, I have lots of stories. Let me tell this one. This is one of my favorite ones. Just because it's an eye-opener and it just makes you think. Okay, well, when was this? Maybe, 10 years ago or so. I was set to fly out to, where was this? It was a Vans demo in Oklahoma. The Tony Hawk Foundation was doing a grand opening of a skate park. I went out there with Todd Harder, another pro skater, and get our hotel, this and that. I get to speak, and I'm doing this gig. I'm doing the commentary, a real nice cement park that just opened. And it's going great, having a good time. And I use the restroom. I walk away in the parking lot, and there's this guy, maybe in his late 20s. He's sitting there taking a break, and his door's open. And he looks at me and he goes, "I don't like you. You're a joke, man." And I said, "Dude," I said, "why? You don't even know me." And he's like, "I don't like this company you skate for." He was just being a hater. Great. And, I could have been like, "Screw you, buddy," blah. But I said, you know what? I came out here. I flew out here. This is a gig. And I don't have time for this. There's nothing really to discuss. And he still stayed edgy and in his little hate zone. And I went on about my business. I went back to the event, skating, and this one little kid. He was really into what I was doing, and I helped him learn a couple tricks. And then I did a signing. I had a bunch of posters. And I remember this little kid came up, and his name was whatever, and I signed it. And I was like, "Good job today, buddy," blah, blah, blah. I said, keep skating, don't quit. Well, as the event is wrapping up, I see this kid, and he's running up, and he's going towards his father. He's just walking towards the skate park. And who is his father? It was that hater guy in the car. And this kid's going, "Dad, look at the poster. I met Doug Brown, and he helped me do this trick." And the kid was so ecstatic. I saw the energy. And the look in the dad's face was just priceless. It was more a lesson for that father than it was for me. That, watch who you hate. His son, who I had inspired and influenced and made his day, his father maybe changed his tune, maybe saw things differently. I have a lot of stories that are kind of similar to this. Like in my writing of my books. If I would have thrown the towel in years ago because some haters were like wanting me to go away and just, I had a woman one time come up to me, an elderly woman, and she said that her son was suicidal. And he was short for his age. All the kids were bullying him. But he read my book, my biography. And how by reading that book, she told me, that he did a complete 180 and it changed his outlook. I never met this kid in my life. No idea. But somehow my words, my biography, my life story inspired that young man that was suicidal. Mission accomplished. Something so simple. Me writing my book and that led to that one. And that's just one story. That's the paycheck. That's the, I don't need a hater. I don't care about a hater. I care about that kid that I inspired. That's where my energy is. So whatever dream you're pursuing, think about what your dream is and what is the outcome, what is your goal. Hopefully it's not to be rich or famous. Hopefully it's to inspire other people to make a difference in our world, do something productive. I always think of my mother. She was such a ball of light and energy. And I learned from her, especially when she was going through cancer. People didn't know she had cancer. She had a wig. People would compliment her hair. And she really... she taught me to keep moving. To not let something negative to define you. She had cancer, but people didn't know it. And she had accomplished so much. I mean, a lot. It's pretty impressive. Even now, when I look at her obituary, I see it a lot differently now that I'm older and what she did accomplish. I choke up when I read it. She was the head of this. She was whatever of the year, and it's pretty impressive. And I take that into my life and think, you know what? Be proud of what you've done. Don't let anybody take that away. And number one, when I think of her, I talk about her a lot. I think about her all the time, every day. I want to honor her memory. That to me is important. Would she want me to go down some negative path and be that hater type person? Or would she want me to go down a positive path? Reach those kids. Inspire somebody. Evoke kindness out of people. That is where my energy is. And a lot of that stems from losing my mother. Everybody's experienced some form of death, and it makes you think about your own mortality. Which now that I'm getting older, you think about it a lot more. I've had classmates, just this year I've had a couple classmates pass away. And it makes you think of your purpose and how short and precious and delicate life really is. These seconds and minutes count. Make every day full. Live it to the fullest. That's what I try to do. I make a conscious choice to wake up every day and just... John Lennon said this best. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And wow, is that true. In pursuing this dream, whatever it is, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I celebrate the milestones along the way. For me, when my career started, getting a pro model was a huge deal. I was with a big company out of LA that was putting this board in shops everywhere across the globe. I'd go to Vegas, and that was a buzz. Watching a kid go across the street, pops his board up, my name's on the bottom of that board. I figured, you know what? That is big. That to me was like, wow, I made it. I'm not high profile, huge household name skateboarder, but that was neat. And I never even thought I would have another pro model after that. And I did, up to 19, I think, something like that. And these small little accomplishments have added up after 20 years. That has kept me going. I've had the downtimes. I've said this a few times already. Speed bumps. That's going to happen in life. Just count on it. It's like when you plan a wedding. Just plan that something is going to go wrong. Electricity might go out. Something might happen. Something not planned. And that's life. But you keep moving. And then experience happens. You gain wisdom. I learned a lot about that through my father. After my mother passed away, he took the role on of co-parent. You know, he was the parent. He was both mother and father. But he kept moving. We didn't take 3 weeks off of school when my mother passed away. My brother and I went to school the next day. And a lot of people kind of gave us looks, and it dawned on me that it bothered people. Like somehow, but I know my mom would have wanted me to keep going, not to give up and just sulk in it. Instead, my father showed my brother and I to keep moving. And that's what she would have wanted. There's different ways to grieve. That's a whole nother podcast in itself. But for me, my mother, yeah, she passed away, but she's still alive. How is she still living? Well, her spirit obviously is still here. She's flowing through my veins and my brother's. She lives on through us. And that's one thing that's sad. She never saw me graduate high school. She never had the opportunity to meet pivotal people in my life. And she never got to see this happen, the whole skateboard thing. But I tell you what, there's never a time where she wasn't with me, that she wasn't on my shoulder saying, way to go. She was always my biggest cheerleader in my life. I had remembered in my early teen years, I was recording and writing a lot of my own music. That was really my passion, other than skateboarding. But I'd make these little albums. I mean, they had 10, 12 songs on them, all original. I had a 4-track cassette recorder. Now you can use your iPhone and have an orchestra at the touch of a button. But back then, I had to do all this stuff myself. And she was listening to one of my albums. I was just waking up, going to school, and she was in the kitchen. She had the headphones on. She was focusing. Her eyes were closed. I'll never forget this. And Mom, what are you doing? And she took the headphones off, and she said, you know what? This music that you've written, this song, this is better than anything on the radio. Wow. For her to say that was huge. So when I think of those memories of my mother, and now in the 20 years that have gone by, that she'd get a kick out of all this. And I know that she would mainly respond to the fact that I've reached a lot of people. That's number one. I mean, it's heavy. I've had role models. My guitar teacher, that's a great example. Brad Shreve. He was my Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you will. I like to use Star Wars analogies, metaphors. That's one of them. But what he did for me, I didn't know anything about playing guitar when I met him, and he went the extra mile. He taught me how to record and produce songs. He taught me even some piano. And the lessons were completely different than normal traditional lessons. We had a couple that we went into the studio, half hour. He would teach, but for the most part, the store would close. My dad would drop me off. It was after hours in the lobby. And we would just plug in some amps. Not many rules. He would write stuff on tablets, but it was very loose. Here's how you play this. Here's this. And he's somebody I looked up to, big time. And that's how if I can do that for somebody else, that's worthy. That makes me feel good. Because that's important. So when I meet a kid that's into my skating, who's followed my videos, read my books, you bet I'm going to take the time to sign whatever and to talk to him. Words are important. When people message me or whatever and have questions and ask about my skating, I always take the time to give them a good paragraph. Not just like thumbs up. Or if I'm going to visit a kid in a hospital. Lots of stories of doing that with Athletes for Hope and now Dreamwakers. They schedule a half hour, but I'm always there well over an hour. Because I'm talking to these people. So many stories of meeting terminally ill children or teens that have had traumatic things happen to them. And I always leave that hospital room inspired. I go there to inspire. I bring posters, t-shirts, I do my song and dance. But when I leave, I think, wow, that's incredible. The things that people can endure and go through, and the strength of the kids and the parents. Those kind of transactions, those would never happen if it wasn't for my skateboarding. And with this podcast today, I could sit here and go through my timeline and tell you, I traveled here, I met this pro, I got to do this. Accolades. I've had a lot of accolades doing this, but I'd rather spend the time not only talking about why I skateboard, but what I've done with these 20 years. And that's what I'm most happy about, is reaching the people and hopefully giving back. And like I just said, I don't think these people realize that I get inspired from it too. I see life, I see families. Even I do private lessons with skateboarding. And it reminds me, big time verbatim, of teaching guitar. When I used to teach guitar, and I see that when I teach skateboarding. I see the parents and the support. I love to see that. And that's increasing compared to when I was in high school, where my dad was like, "Oh, you punk, when are you going to grow up?" And he didn't see what we were doing and what we were creating and what I was getting out of skateboarding, and that it paid off and it was something worthy. I see that these parents now are very supportive. That's just awesome. That a father saying, "Yeah, let's go get you a skateboard. I'm behind you on this. Hey, we'll do lessons with this guy," and I'd like to be part of that. That makes me feel good, passing the torch, and especially these young kids. I get a kick out of teaching just something so simple. Like my first big trick when I was young was a 360 rotation, spin on those back wheels, and I get to teach that now, and I instantly go back to when I was that age, learning that trick. When I teach that and see the kid finally land it, it's priceless. I see myself in that student. And to me, that's paying it forward. That's giving back. And one day, hopefully, like that student that I'm teaching that trick to, he will go on with his skateboarding and he's going to teach that to somebody. Much like that guitar teacher, Brad, that I had. He taught me guitar. I got so much out of that. And I spent 10 years after I graduated high school teaching guitar to a lot of students. And in fact, just the other day, one of these students, he became a guitar professor. I'm sure he surpassed me in guitar playing. But he had told me that when he teaches, he thinks of me, and that my style of teaching inspired him, and he's now touched by that and is doing it. You see the cycle I'm trying to paint? That's a wonderful thing. That's life right there. And here I am. Yep, 20 years. Wow. That's pretty crazy, because I'm meeting skateboarders now that are like in their teens, just doing amazing things with their skateboarding. I'm like, you weren't even born. Like what? I'm like older than your parents. Life is crazy. Take it all in, people, because it goes quick. So, finishing this off, I didn't want to make today terribly long. I just thought it was appropriate that the 20th episode should be the 20 years podcast. Being reflective, I've done some stuff. I've done a lot of stuff in my skateboarding career. It's just been crazy. All the travels, all the gigs, planes, hotels, friends, new friends, old friends. I mean, the 30-year high school reunion is this summer. 30 years I've been out of high school. What? It's been fun getting older in some ways, because your brain changes a lot. Yeah, your body does too, but stay in shape, everybody. That's another big thing with my skateboarding. Every day, got an exercise bike if I'm not skateboarding. And eat well. And stay drug and alcohol free. Don't burn yourself out, man. Drugs will take away those dreams that I was talking about earlier. Make good choices. And stay focused. I know I'm getting sidetracked here. But everything I've done with my career has been wild. I didn't want to spend the whole time talking about, well, I got on X-Air deodorant. I was on a deodorant stick and body wash, 2005. They sold those everywhere. What was it? Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Ben Franklin's, Walgreens. I got a lot of backlash for that too. But what a lot of those people that were giving me crap about that didn't realize, I used that money to start a foundation. A nonprofit deal I did for years. And that was rewarding. So with your dreams and your aspirations, try to do something positive. We need that in this world. It is a crazy time. Politics, uh, everything. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest with you. I live a pretty simple life now. I live a private life, but I still skate all the time, and it is good this past hour or so to reflect on how I got here and how fortunate I've been. I did hustle. I did bleed. I had some injuries. I recovered. What's the future? I get that a lot. I've been getting that for years. I remember speaking at libraries 10 years ago. There's always some dad in the back, raises his hand with the question. He goes, well, what are you going to do when you can't skate anymore? Number one, diversification is good. I'm not just this mindless skateboarder. I have become a published author. Been very lucky with that. And, of course, a motivational speaker. And I still skate. I know my limits. I tell these people or whoever that I don't plan on quitting. Ever. There's different forms of skateboarding. You don't have to kill yourself. And I mean this when I say this. I could go right now. There's my skateboard. Hey, buddy. I could pick it up, go outside right now, and just skate down the street. And skate back and have a buzz. Have a really good sensation from just simply that. It's not all about doing huge tricks. I enjoy that. I like the challenge. I do. My endorphins shoot when I'm landing a cool trick and I feel it makes that slap noise or grind or whatever. But I still go back to when I first started skateboarding all those years ago. I was fascinated that you could just jump on a board and you could do what's called tic-tacking. I could move the board, a smooth parking lot, without even getting off and pushing. That's how I fell in love with skateboarding. Just simply riding the board. The relationship between the feet, the grip tape, the urethane, and the cement. It's just once I'm on there, I'm instantly transported to a happy place. It's a good feeling. And it's a great, what I call, anti-drug. When I'm down, depressed, we all get that. You know, choose your anti-drug. Could be music, karate, whatever. For me, it's always been skateboarding. Down, depressed, jump on that thing, man. I'm doing good. I'm in my own zone. I'm creating my concrete wave. How poetic. It's been so many years that I've done this. I look back at the old pictures and videos, and I mean, I can't believe some of the stuff. I toured with the Newsboys in 2005. I mean, to be the only skateboarder on a tour that I'm skating every night to 17 to 20,000 people. I had a group of 5 guys that would build this ramp every night for me to skate, and I mean, it's a little overwhelming when I think of all of the things I've got to do, the opportunities that my skateboarding gave me. And hopefully I have more years of doing it. I know that life is about change, and no matter what I do next, that my skateboarding brought me here. That's what life will do for you as well. Everything is a step. It's a puzzle piece. There are all these puzzle pieces. We're constantly putting puzzles to make our puzzle piece to make it complete. But the puzzle's never done. We're never done learning. However, things get easier the older you get. You can reflect like I am today in this moment. I should give thanks. I mean, it is with immeasurable gratitude that I thank all the sponsors and everybody who played a part in my career. Even people in my private life, you know who you are. That I couldn't have done all this. You have played a huge part in being part of my team. My agent I had for many years. And just landing me here in this position talking to you fine folks today. Thank you for listening. To check out all my comings and goings, visit DougBrown.org. This is Doug Brown signing off for Method Airwaves. Until next time, everybody, stay positive.
Doug Brown, this Saturday. That's professional skateboarder Doug Brown.
Author and pro skater from the Gravity Games, the dudes who are ESPN Field TV. Doug Brown, very cool guy.
So I'm doing all these shows, you know, the
The
competition.
second stop of the AST2 Tour, it is the right guard open. Today it is going to be going off.